Liberty's Guardian, Guns and Ammunition, a family-owned business located in the heart of Ohio's hunting country. Let us help you find the right shotgun or rifle for you. Or if you're looking for a pistol or concealed carry, we have a nice selection of compact and subcompact pistols for that too. Check out our website at www.libertiesguardian.com. That website again is www.libertiesguardian.com. Go to the website and check out our selection today.
Join Mark and Don for Weapons Wednesday, where you'll learn how to use everything from your bare hands to your average AR-15.
The 12-gauge autoloader.
Sure.
The 45 long slide.
Yep.
With laser sighting.
You betcha.
The Uzi 9mm.
Yes, sir.
Phased plasma rifle in the 40-watt range.
What are you, crazy?
Wrong.
Okay. They'll talk about that too. So whatever question you have about whatever weapon you have, call Mark and Don on Weapons Wednesday. And remember, your mind is your first best weapon.
We all need to prepare ourselves. You might have the food, water, gold, and silver, but ask yourself, are you truly prepared? That's why you need to visit MaineMilitary.com. MaineMilitary.com carries everything you need. Gas masks, fire starter kits, high-capacity magazines, chemical suits, military surplus items, and much more. Do you own a firearm? MaineMilitary.com has a large selection of pistols and rifles suited for your needs. Are your local stores sold out of ammunition? Call or visit them today for prices on hard-to-find ammo and bulk ammo orders. You don't need to worry about having a military surplus store in your area because MaineMilitary.com is the only store you'll ever need, all from the comfort of your computer. Visit them online today at MaineMilitary.com. That's Maine, like the state, military.com.
I had a dream the other night that, well, I didn't understand. A figure walked in through the mist with a flintlock in his hand. His clothes were torn and dirty as he stood there by my bed. He took off his three-cornered hat, and speaking low to me, he said, "We fought fought a revolution to secure our liberty. We wrote the Constitution as a shield from tyranny. For future generations, this legacy we gave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. The freedoms we secured for you, we'd hoped you'd always keep. But tyrants labored endlessly while your parents were asleep. Your freedom's gone, your courage lost. You're no more than a slave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. You buy permits to travel and permits to own a gun. Permits to start a business or to build a place for one. On land that you believe you own, you pay a yearly rent. Although you have no voice in saying how the money's spent. Your children must attend a school that doesn't educate. And your Christian values can't be taught according to the state. You read about the current news in a regulated press, and you pay a tax you do not owe to please the IRS. Your money is no longer made of silver nor of gold. You trade your wealth for paper so your life can be controlled. You pay for crimes that make our nation turn from God and shame. You've taken Satan's number. You've traded in your name. You've given government control to those who do you harm so they could burn down churches and seize the family farm and keep our country deep in debt. Put men of God in jail. Harass your fellow countrymen while corrupted courts prevail. Your public servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn. And your daughters visit doctors so their children won't be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you'll fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear and be a slave? O sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand, defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great republic and each God-given right. And pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside in a dream while you were asleep and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave? God bless you, and God bless this republic.
Well, I know I miss more than hit with a face that was launched to sink, and I seldom feel the bright relief. It's been the worst day since yesterday. If there's one thing I have said, is that the dreams I once had now lay in bed. As the four
a marching drum, we'll win the war and pay the toll. We'll fight as one in heart and soul. Midnight mare and blood-red roan, fight to keep this land your own. Sound the horn and call the cry. How many of them can we make die? Axes flash, the rocks will swing, shining armors piercing a ring. Houses run with a polished shield. Fight those bastards till they yield. Midnight mare, blood-red roan, fight to keep this land your own. Sound the horn and call the cry. How many of them can we make die? How many of them can we make die? How many of them can we make die?
And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first hour of the afternoon intelligence report. I'm Mark Murphy. One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters, both on and behind the lines, in occupied territories, southwest, north, northeast, and south. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to us on Libertytreeradio.4mg.com, Liberty Tree Radio on YouTube, and we are on AM and FM micro stations, CB base stations, and Ultra Net, Hallmark, and Golden Spike Technologies east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. Good afternoon to all of our friends out there in the lower 49, including the great state of Jefferson, along with CONUS, the outlying two states, the territories, and the clock. 5:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is Monday. It is the 10th of August. It is the 12th year of open Fabian Socialist and Soviet Socialist occupation of America with a K. 2020 Old Earth Calendar. Funeral, she's good, Captain, and a whole lot more, sir. And 2020 Dance of Swords. Conflict is inevitable. You may lament about it. You may talk about how horrible. Oh, it's so horrible. You don't want to listen. Okay, water, drip, torture, communist, Chinese, and globalist occupation and murder in America over, forever. I think we need a war to make sure that doesn't happen. And so, yeah, we're going to have to tough it out with however bad it gets, but it would be far worse if we let the jackasses try to get away with what they have planned, which means we need to kill them before they try to kill us. Well, wait a minute. I'll tell you what. They got to kind of take the first swing. Have you ever seen the unit patch for my, the second Raider company? You probably haven't. It's very symbolic. It's that iron fist with the dagger, classic knight coming down, and the green-gloved fighting knife coming up from below, piercing through the wrist of the iron gauntlet, and a blood shit dripping off of the blade poking out the other side. Remember, ne copula, no biscum. Don't ever forget it. Well, you're going to find out. Anyway, we got a lot of work to do. It is Monday, a glorious Monday. It's been a beautifully hot day here in the bottom of Michigan. And spittly rain. It's really kind of funny. Blue sky going across the state. And all of a sudden there's these wisps of what obviously look like be stormy, cloudy, like thin leftovers off of the Lake Michigan. And sure enough, we got a little spittle of rain and then blue sky. I mean, spittle of rain it took me longer to tell you than we got hit with it just about, maybe a little longer. And then blue sky. And the west side of the state, perfect, but again, in the 80s and 90s. Of course, the humidity's way up. That's why it seems hotter than it is. Yeah, that bulb factor, for many of you might recall, if you were down at Fort Benning, how could you find out whether or not you're going to have an excuse to not go into the field? Well, by 10 o'clock, remember, what's the bulb? Yeah, as soon as you knew it was at a certain point, the moisture content, the dew point, everything that was formulated, and we're going to kind of stay in today. We'll stay close to the barracks, or we'll stay into the closer training area of the alternate schedule. And in many cases, barely that. So anyway, it has been a perfect summer day, though. It is August. We are headed into the end of the year, or the last quarter. It's not here yet. Let's not throw away the month. We got a lot to do. And that includes, but is not restricted to, especially procurement of material. But let me recommend a few things. Number one, if you're younger, elbow pads and knee pads along with groin armor. Now, the groin armor looks like it's all gone from Sportsman's Guide. That is not a surprise. They show that it's backstage. If you're going to get it, it's whenever it comes in. You might get something if they restock. I don't see them restocking. Okay, I just don't see that happening. Looking at the wholesalers that provide, and I know who the wholesalers are that provide the Sportsman's Guide on that body armor that I've been pointing out. Had a chance to have a conversation with them, remember, last week, and went back and forth on certain things, and it's like, well, whatever's here is here. When it's gone, it's gone. And if they get more, it's not likely because government's not allowing anything to come in because they know what we're planning on using it for, and they realize they want us bare ass to the wind. So body armor, as far as additional or supplemental coming in or additional guns, they're not allowing any additional imports. If you didn't see the notice on the M1 carbines, now it's not a surprise, and that could change, but it's not likely because Trump is, being run by the Jewish mob. The Jewish mob knows exactly what they're planning on doing as far as screwing this country, and they don't want everybody to be as open and realized about the arming thing. So let's put the kibosh to that. Let's put the brakes on it, and that's what they've been doing. So replacement of munitions is going to be difficult at best. It's not that it isn't out there, it's just that they won't allow it. And certain weapons, in fact, many weapons, not just certain weapons, it might as well be Canada with what Trump's ATF and Trump's State Department is doing, and they're both run by the Jewish mob out of Haifa and Tel Aviv. So Haifa and Tel Aviv telling the State Department and the skanks in the ATF what to do, well, those turds are all wearing yarmulkes too. So, oy gewalt, we know what that means. Anyway, as far as munitions and equipment goes, catch as catch can. I'm going to say something again that I said last week. If you run into something like you need 380 auto, you need 9mm, 40 cal is actually, I think, more difficult than 9mm right now. There is ball 9mm. It's, again, mostly the Russian stuff, which I have no problem with. For most of what you're going to be doing, which is close-in burst fire, pop, boom, boom, it'll work just fine. It's going to stay within the pie plate, and that's good enough for most of what you're doing. Although it sticks on target farther ranges, it'll work. It'll do the job. And again, if that's what you got, you better figure out how to make it work anyway, right? Don't lament about it. You better, if you're such a master of the trade, I'm a real provider, I know all the blah, 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 well, then you better be able to make anything you got in your hands work. You better be showing me what kind of a Johnny Jet jock you are. You shouldn't have any problem with any of the technology that shows up. You have to make it work. Improvise, adapt, and overcome. Everybody's always this special figure, super blah, 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 blah. Well, improvise, adapt, and overcome. Get over it. Now work with the toolbox. It's limited to whatever we got in the toolbox. So we're going to have to make it work the best of our ability. Anyway, 40 cal seems to be a little more of an issue. So if you see it, buy it. That's all I can say. Buy it. Again, cheapest for the mostest is your best bet. Here's what's cute is 40 caliber and 9mm are almost as expensive as a 5.56 round. Since they're all hovering up there around 50 to 60 cents a round, it's like, wow, 7.62 by 39 is staying down at around 30 cents a round or less. So, which would I be getting? Well, of course, if you don't have the rifle, then you got a problem there too. So let's not forget that just because you got cheap ammo, which you should buy if you can, if you don't have the gun in hand, you got to make sure that you do have a source for it because, or you have a plan. I know your plan shouldn't be to steal it from your neighbor, okay? There's some greasy, rotten, bottom-feeding people out there with that idea. I'm going to take it from the other guys because I'm special, they're not. It's like, well, from our enemy, yes. But from our allies or neighbors or just anybody, because you got your big plan is you're going to be the scallywag pirate. Well, scallywag pirates get their ass shot real quick by a lot of us. Just a heads up on that one. There's a bunch of people that are, there's, like I've always said, there are different teams out there. There are criminal minds out there that have no intent of really being part of any effort to secure or preserve the country. They're just the pirate brains. They're just the thief and criminal brains. We have them in all colors, black, white, Asian, pink, purple, you name it. The criminal mind out there, it comes in all flavors and is also something you constantly have to beware of. Make no mistake about it. Ain't no difference between the criminal mind of a black person, a white person, an Asian person, an Indian person. Take your pick, wherever they are from the planet, even the Eskimo, and they don't have as much of a crime problem. But every once in a while, there's somebody out there with the wrong genes. And I ain't talking blue genes, okay? So we got work to do. And again, with regard to the ammunition, if you are set on a caliber and you're going to be picking up a weapon, you better be hammering the ammunition and mags right now. I don't care. It's not panic buying. It's just logic. If you're planning on fighting with this thing and you already know you're going to be committed to it, again, for the pistol, a minimum of 6 mags in mag pouches or however you're going to carry them, and 1 mag up the magazine well. So 7 mags at least. Usually with most of the little automatics you get right now, you get a couple of mags at least, or at least 1. And I shouldn't say at least 2. At least 1. And then in many cases, you get 2 extra beyond, so you get 3 mags total. It depends on which gun you're buying. No matter what, when they're offering the gun, go down there and scroll through the company you're buying the handgun from, and there's typically the magazines at the best price you'll find if the gun's a glut item on the market right now. It just came in. There's a big pile of them. They just came from Schmidlap Police Department. If they're hand-me-down cop guns or hand-me-down, foreign government guns that they were using to execute people and putting them in the ditch, whoever it came from or wherever it came from, the spare mags are coming in about the same time or soon will. If they're there now, buy them. Why? Well, take a look at a few guns where we told you to do that before. The Star pistols, when they first came in, there were spare magazines that came in. They came in all at once, and they weren't too outrageously priced initially. But then everybody bought a bunch of them, and then some people bought a whole pile of mags, like we were saying. But because of that, other people didn't get other mags, and then they realized there weren't as many mags laying around, and the guys who have the mags are now into the buyer's market, seller's market, not buyer's market. And so the price went up, and it's gone up, and it's gone up again. Now, the gun itself is actually reasonably priced and not a bad little pistol. The problem ain't the razor, it's the blades. When the magazines cost, $59 or $69 a piece, it negates the value of the pistol beyond using it as if you buy it cheap, using it as a cash gun, sticking it somewhere in a toolbox, so saying you grab this, shoot your way to another gun. But otherwise, you're looking for a balance here. You want to find the guns that, reasonably priced for the magazines. The gun itself isn't too outrageous. Ammunition is available. So there's the balancing act that you're playing right now, and which to a degree you always have. But when we weren't into, the end of the world as we know it, dudes, we're getting ready for a war, it was a lot easier when I told you to 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, to buy, and grab all you could. Because you'd be getting twice as much if you'd bought it earlier. And I think that's pretty obvious, okay? So, we got to live what we got, and again, that's why I'm trying to find things that are a little less expensive. Amazingly enough, I'm finding like 30 Luger. You're not going to find anything in 30 Luger. But there is 30 Luger ammunition all over the place. It's available, and it's actually cheaper than now it's cheaper than your 9mm, and now it's cheaper than your 40 caliber. That's what's bizarre. It was more expensive, but, with the price creep being what it is, amazingly enough, 30 Luger has stayed right where it has been because it really doesn't move that much. What are you going to find for it? Well, 30 caliber Luger pistols. Little standard Luger and 30 caliber, neck down 9mm, okay? There are some other odd calibers, and I will repeat again, a lot of 38 Super. Another batch of it just came in. Looks like it's Arms Corps, probably got off the docks, finally got approved, and it's been spread out to a number of locations. How long it's going to last, I don't know, but for the time being, if you do have a 38 Super pistol in your inventory, I wouldn't be trying to fight over the 9 or the 40 cal if it's so expensive. I'd be buying more of that 38 Super and finding more mags for the gun that takes the 38 Super, because it's a lot less expensive. You get more boom for the amount of, trigger pull. You do more trigger pulls, like pew-pews, boom-booms, with the 38 Super for the moment than you will with 40 caliber or with even the 9mm. Unless you're lucky and find some of the Wolf stuff laying around. And yesterday, man, the tachometer on the ammunition inventories, for whatever reason, whatever anybody saw, whatever everybody was talking about on Saturday, it was expressed in purchasing throw on Sunday. A lot of stuff went right out the window, dude. Like the tornado into hurricane, sucked it away. And so that, unfortunately, is going to be an ongoing theme right up until the shipwreck of November. So we got a lot of work to do. Again, like I said, other pistol calibers, 32 is out there available, 32 and 25 ACP. It's interesting that it's more likely you'll find it in case lots than you'll find it in individual boxes. That's the only thing. If you got a 32, bite the bullet, and pardon the pun, and buy a case of 32. In fact, if you can find another gun that matches the one you got in 32, buy another one. Seriously. Well, it wasn't all that fancy. No, it's not. But you know what? Better to go pop, 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 bark like a dog, and put some spiky holes in someone than harsh language and an empty gun. Having a really cool, fancy, state-of-the-art blah, 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 but everybody wanted the ammo at the same time and it's gone, then 32 ACP actually is nothing to sneeze at. I don't get shot with anything, but 32 will put a nice ice pick hole in your hind end, and it does bark like a dog. It's got a report that just, lets everybody know you're here. And it's amazing for its size what it sounds like. So that's a good thing. Noise and, quality of audio effect is part of the many elements of the psychological effect of breaking the attitude of the enemy that they can proceed without cost. You want to make it expensive, constantly expensive, and you want to keep putting holes in them, and you don't stop. You don't stop. You keep fighting. You don't stop. Okay? Just that simple. You don't stop. Otherwise, they plan on putting a bullet in the back of your head and putting you in a ditch. They plan on having the military come around and give you a happy shot and kill your ass. Okay? And Trumpet's now trying to fumble his mouth out of that one. Oh, Big Pharma's he's been riding with Big Pharma this whole time. He's been bragging about riding with Big Pharma this whole time. Him and Kushner and all the rest of the kosher mafia clan that are in there, which are no different from the kosher mafia clan running the commies on the other side, was, is, and will continue to be riding with Big Pharma. I even told you, we're going to have the military come out and give you your shots. And it's like, really? Yeah, we need the army with guns there to make sure that we can put a bullet in your ass if you don't take your murder happy shot. Wow, that sounds real like, wait a minute, that just doesn't sound good at all. So we all better be ready to deal with that problem. Now, again, with all the different strange twists and turns, which, like I've told you, most of them we simply ignore. Here's how it works. Government's lying. The stooge that's in the outhouse is not in charge. All the rest of it's pickle, smoke, and mirrors, and there is an agenda afoot. It's the globalist agenda. The shipwreck is in November. What can you do? What did you do today? What are you going to do tomorrow? What are you going to do the next day? Have a plan to do one thing, even if it's just in your mind. It's just a small thing, but working towards the war effort. I got a couple of cool things today, purely by accident. Got like about 4 or 5. Well, I got 3 3-gallon and 1 5-gallon water container for free. Actual, right? We're built for. A bunch of sleeping bags for free. Those are going to go into the reserve. Someone's going to sleep a little more comfortably when we can, if we can. And most of the time we won't be able to because you'll be exhausted and you'll be running on empty. And Constantly scrambling for everything, which we will never have enough of. Logistics. What we collect now will make it a little less painful later. That's what I'm thinking about. All you should be thinking the same way. Cots, blankets, towels. I don't care how tired they are or if they're how weird they look. In fact, the weirder they look and somebody isn't likely to steal, fold them up, clean them up, fold them up, box them up, or bag them up and box them up. There you go. And then stack them on the shelf for inventory, because the stuff that you don't want to use is great. That gets handed out to the people who have nothing when the time comes, and we need to, shit, shower, and shave, get them squared away, give them a good meal, get them turned around with better equipment, and put them back in the fight. Okay? We've got a lot of work that in that area, logistics-wise, that will need to be done. Another thing, again, a lot of that stuff also applies to medical support. Picked up a wheelchair this weekend for free. Got a couple other medical, got crutches, children's crutches for free. Grab them, yep. Put them away, yep. Why? Because improvising shouldn't be necessary in a country that's so rich that we put stuff like that out by the road. If we're foolish or stupid enough to be doing that right now, well, again, I'm not going to complain, but let's just make sure we don't pass it by. Containers, transport cans. This weekend, timing is everything. I went from one yard sale to the next, and the first one, the guy was a tool and die man. I didn't get everything he had, but I got all the critical leveling and squares, all the hand tools that he made, chucks, taps, dies, and files, a little bit of everything. The second one, guy, same thing again. Gentleman, only not passed away. It's just Dad wanted to clean out his garage, and the son was taking care of it. He's my age, a little younger. And lo and behold, I got everything in the yard sale for a whopping $30, and it was worth a lot more than that, including tools, military equipment, all kinds of fun stuff. He just was closing out. It was going to be the end of his yard sale, and he was going to put stuff out by the road. So it's like, sure, I'll take and buy all this, all that, and that too, and some more stuff for the machine shop, and for building another machine shop, and for building another machine shop, and for building another machine shop, which is what we should all be looking at. Rebuild, redo, again, repeat, again. Collect it, sort it, and then direct it for use. And then the last sale, got a whole pile of Michigan maps for free. And so, guys, if you just keep eyeballing and looking, and the last one was cool only because more physical maps are a really good thing. Doesn't make any difference if they're this year's, last year's, or 10-year-old maps, 15-year-old maps, 20-year-old maps. I don't care. Grab them all. Why? They're printed. They're paid for. They're free. The state hasn't changed. The basic road net has not changed. Any lesser bits of information on the mapping will adapt. But most important is all the basics are there to keep you on the road or keep you across country on the path. Typical landmarks do not change. Urban centers do not change. Is that city still there? Is that dot on the map village still there? Yes, it is. Can you see it? Yep. Okay, that's where it's supposed to be. Look over there. That's where it's supposed to be. Here I go. I am here. Congratulations. Shoot at azimuth with your compass. Keep moving cross country. Any map helps. Collect all the maps that you can and keep bagging them up. Ziploc bag them. Once you get them, Ziploc bag them. Distribute them to every vehicle. I have a lot of tactical vehicles. Each one got 2 Michigan maps. Now, I also have Indiana maps. Got those for free during one of the trips. Got some Illinois maps. Each one of the vehicles got those. Why? Because they were free. Any time where you can find any kind of material that does not require batteries or put burden on your power supply, then that is a good thing. Well, a couple of things. What else did I get from those sales? Oh, got 2 hunter spotlights. So 2 vehicles have the exact same spotlight, which is cool. Not that we didn't have other ones, but price is right, basically free. Anything and everything like that you start divvying up or you put it in your reserves in another location, backups to backups to backups, and you're in like Flynn. Okay. Oh, that's Mr. Flynn. No, in like Flynn. Yeah, okay, whatever. Remember the old spy movies, paralleling James Bond? They were kind of like tongue-in-cheek. Yeah. So anyway, our man Flynn, yeah. Anyway, the next project here coming up for everybody should be, again, food. We are looking at the harvest cycle now. Blueberries are phenomenal here in Michigan. Blackberries, we're at the middle cycle with some of the plants, beginning of the cycle with others, and we have literally harvested gallons. Nancy's got another 20 pints of jelly in the other room. We just gave one or two out. They're as fresh as you could imagine right there. Yum, 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 yum. And multi-berry, too, since we got other berries that are coming in. I will remind everybody, wild grapes, wild grapes, wild grapes. The next big wave of what we're going to get that's going to come in all at once are wild grapes. I have taste tested several different, they're turning right now, which they shouldn't be. This is something I will give everybody a heads up to, which is kind of strange. We had a little drop in temperature, but not a spike that was deep enough to be considered a sugar run. But we've had some grapes actually ripen that are wild grapes. There is no tartness to them at all. They're just like mini and very big versions, or I should say big versions of a wild grape, but with the flavor of a standard Michigan Concord or a Michigan purple grape. Take your pick of flavor and family. And that's fantastic. But it's also something, again, this is one of those things we haven't seen before. I haven't. I've picked wild grapes. I expect them to be a little tart. You know, that's what gives them unique flavor. But what we're going to produce, if these continue as they are this year, is going to be a wild grape jelly that tastes like a domestic grape. So I think it's going to be rather fascinating. So there's stuff going on with the background radiation, what's coming out from the sun. We're at the bottom of the solar cycle. There's a lot of other factors that are tied into this. Plus, the purple fruits are the ones that have been very, very healthy. And remember, that involves certain minerals, and it also is the telltale marker for a specific visible light spectrum acceleration or excess. So whatever's going on, we'll find out in the long run. And as it is, no matter how we look at it, the sunshine does a good job of killing the viruses that supposedly we're all supposed to be terrified of. Shame on the liars, and the excrement and the fools. They're following the prattling of the Dr. Kevorkian in D.C. and the rest of the international turds that are pumping his hind end. Next, let's see. Well, on the food, also, there's no MRE relief. Somebody was saying, well, Mark, is there any place to find any decent prices on MREs? The only thing you're going to find is if there's a close date item, and there is no such thing as really close dating on MREs. I want you all to remember that. I have read all of the specs. It's about 20 pages on the air. Maybe I'll do it again. I don't know if I really need to. I can do it explaining it this way. Trust me, MREs really don't have an expiration date. If the cooler you keep them and the darker you keep them, the better off they are and the longer they'll last. And I always thought when they said, like there was a percentage of not spoilage, but a change, that it would be something where, wow, the food is turned, gone south and doesn't, it's really alien. And it's the concern was a flavor change. Now, we're not talking a flavor change or, oh, my God, it tastes like dog poop. We're talking about a flavor change where I guess if you're a finicky idiot who's apparently never starved before, that you would be, pissy and moany about the fact that it doesn't quite taste like Chef Boyardee today. Well, anybody who's ever been in the field and not had the Air Force drop them junk or the stuff not show up, you'll be real happy with anything that kind of tastes right as long as it doesn't poison you. And here's the thing, it won't poison you, it's just not going to taste quite the same. Well, in a crisis situation, that isn't going to be an issue. You open a package of food, and if somebody is hungry and they're smelling it, you're going to have a hard time keeping them from eating it too fast or biting your hand off while they're trying to get to the pouch. You all get my drift on that one? Now, the problem is there isn't that much of anything in the way of MREs out there. There are the Metropolitan, or there's a number of different names for them. What they are basically is civil defense MREs. That's fine. Bought a ton of those myself at different times, and most recently we bought out a couple of the companies, and they have never been able to resupply. However, if you do see any of the dated stuff, grab it. It's like the hamburger patties I mentioned that we didn't get to fast enough. I mentioned them on the air. They were gone before I could get back to them. I expected that. But hopefully our people got them. First they were down to a minimal. They actually were limiting how many you could get, and then finally they just gave up the ghost and they were out. So it happens. But watch for any of those deals. Get on everybody's email announcement and for material like any of the surplus companies, Coleman's, even CDNN, although they don't really have any of the stuff we're talking about like that. But Major Surplus is another one. And any of the companies, Center Fire Systems, they do have a little bit. I don't believe they have any food, but they do have other items in surplus that they've been having daily deals on. Get into that, the email notice, and read them. One of the reasons you want to do that is obvious. You may be able to save dollars. We were talking a chunk of change off on those hamburgers, hamburger patties. The same is true with other items. Now, otherwise, I'm going to tell you flat out again, Dollar Tree, for any of the menu type items like the dumplings and chicken, if you go over to Dollar Tree, you can get a 15-ounce or a 13-ounce dumpling and chicken can. It's American-made, American cannery. It's $1 a can, and you get 2 ounces more than you would in the MRE if it's a 15-ounce can. Now, that means since the MRE main courses are running about $4 to $5 a piece, as I've said several times on the air, you can buy 5 of those cans just about for the price of 1 MRE. You are farther ahead with 5 cans of the same yumminess as you are with that 1 MRE. And right now, volume is the key, having more of. There are 2 things, food and ammunition. Both of them you're going to be short when the time comes. For the time being, though, for whatever dollars you do spend, get the most for the least. If you have a distress store anywhere nearby, anywhere, I don't care where it is, take advantage of that. Example up towards Saginaw, Michigan, Saginaw Bay, up in that area, there's a dollar distress store. It is, the guy buys truck and insurance, truck wrecks and insurance packages. He has stuff for 10 cents an item on the shelf. It's the same stuff you pay like for Uncle Ben's perverted rice and the flavored versions. 10 cents a box instead of $2 a box. Okay, it's got the same date as anything else on the shelf. It's just been in an accident, and because of that, they have a whole rating system. They can't take the product and move it down the road and offer it on the shelf, but they can turn around and offer it as distressed merchandise. If you have any place like that, there's your big, big savings, so you can put a lot more of everything on the shelf and have variety. Because a lot of people lament, well, all I'd have is this, and all I'd have is that, only because you're not being creative and you're not thinking things through. A little bit. Remember, start thinking in the way we used to think. Mankind, we haven't been in this splurge we've been in for the last 30, 40 years ever in our history. In the past, each nationality, France, for instance, and Germany, typically the big meal, there's one big meal, the other 2 are idlers. You did have 3 meals a day, but the 2 lesser meals were just exactly that. You had only one really major meal where you ate a lot. Typically in the middle of the day, it was most common simply because it allowed you to take advantage of the calories. You still got some storage when you were done. Of course, you had one follow-up meal in the evening. But that varies depending on the country. In some cases, guess what? You didn't have 3 meals a day. Just had 2. In some places, when things got really bad, you might not have but 1 or none, as in 1 or none. N-O-N-E, none. So, the good old days are coming back again, and you better be planning for them real, real quick and deal with, again, the perishables. On the ammunition, we've been talking about it. We'll continue on and off as we find goodies. Some of you may have found some of the solutions we've been looking for in the last couple of days. It's catch as catch can. In the food, it isn't looking much better. However, bags of rice, bags of beans goes a long way, and whatever else you add after that, that's icing on the cake. And a lot of these other food items that are there, worthwhile. Go ahead. We got a caller. Who do we have?
Thanks. Say 2 things. I'll just jump in real quick. Like when you're talking about the cans of food, better value, a lot of guys, when you tell them a story like that, they say, yeah, but I don't want to carry a can. I mean, lots of us have these food savers. Take it out of the can, add a few things, vacuum pack it, and you got an MRE. Put it in your rucksack. End of story. Works good. So just to give people, a lot of people, I'm surprised, don't think about doing that. So then you're not carrying a can. Back to the 9mm ammo you were talking about, and a lot of reloaders don't even stop to think about this. And we've done it. We've tried it just to see what we can do. Pull the bullet, dump out the powder. Is it a double base? Is it a extruded? Decide what it is. Go out to your range, build 3 sets of whatever different, and build a load that's accurate for your weapon out of that, let's just call it junk ammo, and you can do it. You got the powder, you got the bullet, you got the primer, and you got the brass. And if you got more time than, most of us have more time than we have money, so that's another way to go about making that kind of junk ammo into better accuracy, better power, a lot of things like that. So I just wanted to throw it in.
Exactly. One of the things about that is, if you're willing to pull bullets, either two things. A, we obviously collect all the scrap brass we got on the range. I don't care what it is. We've talked about this for years. A lot of people only wait till we get to the crisis point like this. You should be doing it every time you go to the range. I don't think we're going to be in any nicer condition or any better condition than we are now. We're on the last leg here. And I would point out that considering that we're headed towards the shipwreck of November, we don't want to. We can't live with the communists even thinking that they're going to have any kind of power this time around. That's got to be done and finished and out of the way. So we're going to war. We are going to pour gasoline on the fire. It's not going to be going away. It's going to get worse. It is going to be a mess. It's, again, I'm sorry. We should have shot their ass in 94. We would have been done and over with this by now. As it is, again, we're at the cyclic point where the bad guys feel they've got everything plugged in that they need, understand that, and that they are making their move based upon their international agenda and the many bat-crazy POSs that we have floating around out there. Vampires, dudes. They are vampires. They are wicked, monstrous, Cthulhuous, Moloch worshippers, Baal worshippers. You can go right down the shopping list of Crazy Town, and these fools are all part of that. And make no mistake, this goes right down through the ranks of everything you see on the other side. They are Crazy Town. They are wicked. But that doesn't mean that they're not the sharpest pencils, but that doesn't mean they can't be dangerous and aren't dangerous. And it's like I've told you many times, don't you laugh at the other side when you've got the kill all the white people crew standing there with guns. And some people are laughing. Well, they all should know better, and in fact they do. Well, what good is that going to be? Blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, that stray bullet that Crazy Town there just happened to pull the trigger on is just as deadly to you, whether that's a professional or just happens to be some schmuck standing there that, thought that the black uniform was cool and really has no other training. Doesn't make any difference. Dead is dead. Bullets kill all the way around, and they also know no friends, as they found out down there in Atlanta the other day. Go ahead, caller. I'm sorry. Yeah, was it Atlanta? Yeah. Go ahead, caller. Jump in there. That was Louisville, by the way.
Hey. Hi, Mark. I'm not sure if somebody else...
Go right ahead. We got you, caller.
Okay, it's Phyllis. If you had the opportunity to buy a Taurus 380, would you buy it? It takes 380...
A 380 auto?
Yes. I don't know if it's auto or not. I think it might be.
Well, the first thing, find out what model and take a look at the mags. But the biggest problem is 380. Taurus makes good pistols. I used to be a Taurus distributor years ago, and when Taurus first came out, and they only had one automatic at the time that came in. It was the Beretta knockoff, and that was at the end of the time when I was distributing them. Originally, I did their revolvers, and I'll tell you what, I love their revolvers so much that I mostly carried their Model 66 with a 6-inch barrel. And it was one of the smoothest pistols, shooting pistols. And I had Pythons, I had Colt Trooper Mark 1s. I would say it was a toss-up. The Colt Trooper Mark 1, and at that time, the first model Tauruses that came in were both comparable. In their automatics, the biggest issue is more magazines. So what you need to do, if you know what the model, you got to find out what the model is, and you got to look to see whether or not mags are available. That's the first thing. And then the other issue is 380 ammo is kind of thin right now. So how much ammunition does the person offer with the gun?
None. It's a Beretta. That's what it is. When you said that.
A Beretta. Okay.
About the thing, and it comes with
Beretta model.
I don't know. I just didn't pay attention. I really wasn't.
Is it is it an 8-shot? Is it?
I think it's 7. I think there's like 6 in the clip and then one in the chamber.
Well, that must be an earlier Beretta. Okay, probably it might be a military. Unless it's one of those that was conforming during the magazine restriction of the 90s, and then it might actually, well, I'd have to see it. If you can find out what model it is. How much are they asking?
$250.
$250?
$350.
Wow, you're all of a sudden you went muddy. You're like gone. Try that again.
$350.
Okay, well, that's for three. Okay, well, here's the balance. You're in a certain state where you don't have to have paperwork for personal sales, right?
Right, that's right.
Oh, yeah. So if it's one of those, it's worth $350. Or I'd offer I make a counter back on it. See, $320. See what they say. But the big thing is, first of all, we need the model number, and then we need to, like I said, you need to look around for ammunition because ammo is the issue right now. And I don't know if anybody if anybody out there listening, in fact, we've already talked about this the last couple of days, help fill us out here. We need 380 auto balls. Standard minimal cost. Lawman ammo is fine. Excuse me. Tula ammo is fine. There's 380 Tula out there. I don't know if there's any that's come in. I wouldn't care what it was, but if it was ball, I'd buy it. If you're really serious about getting the gun, you want to be buying ammo now.
Okay.
That's the first thing.
Sure,
ammunition.
I don't know too much. I don't know enough about the 380. I don't.
The 380 is a good round. No, I used to carry a model 1922 Browning, and I still think it was one of the best little pocket pistols made. It was just longer by an inch and a quarter over the model 1910 that was in 380 auto. And I'll tell you what, I'd have no problem putting a bullet on somebody with it. It's not, also known in Europe as 9mm Kurtz. Everybody kind of laughs because, well, if you're going to buy a 380, why not buy a 9? Well, because it's a 380 and there are 380s out there. And it does have a little less felt recoil. It barks like a dog, sounds like a 9. It has a little less muzzle energy. But for the most part, all the bullets that go in the 380 go in the 9mm. As far as the bullets, the projectiles go. The only difference is weight. But there's a lot of hollow point and 380 auto projectiles. There is a difference in the dimension, but they're squeezable. You wouldn't take a 9mm standard ball round and stick it into a 380 auto, but there are a bunch of other hollow points and soft points that can be, conscripted to go in the 380 auto if need be. And all you do is, if all else fails, just send them through a shaper. It only takes a second if you know what you're doing. But in your case, we're just looking for loaded ammo, magazines, and if you can get the weapon, if they're, in fact, ask back. Give me a box of ammo with this. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You got to ask.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, if you got any ammo for it, pick it up. Berettas in general, okay, if it's a pre-86 Beretta or actually go back farther than that. If it's a pre-75 Beretta, it's probably a straight inline magazine. It has the classic Beretta lines. It's just scaled down in size. It's a pocket pistol. They're very reliable. Nobody ever had any problems with them. The only thing is, it's, only fires so many rounds. But guess what? Aim and hit. It is a good ladies' gun. 380 auto, 32, 38 special J-frames are good because of their size. But for that matter, like I said, all of the above I've carried or I've shot, and I have a lot of them stashed away all over the place because they were reasonably priced and they work all the time. And again, give me a chance and I'll put a nice little 32 up your arse the right way, and I'll have whatever my enemy has. But, the same is true of the 380. You just, again, know where to hit, know how the weapon works, and put the bullet where it belongs. So it's not a problem with the round. Round's serviceable enough. It's not a dirty, hairy gun. It's a utility, close defense gun. Magazines, we don't have the aftermarket mags we used to have. And if it's the earlier Berettas, first place I'd look would be CDNN Sports, because they're the magazine people. But even as I do that, I'd also go to gunpartscorp.com, because I guarantee they have magazines also, and they might even have a deal on those right now, depending on which Beretta it is. Okay. So, Yeah, give me a model and I can. Give me a model. I can pull it.
This is at a flea market. Won't know till next Saturday. So.
Oh, okay. Well, it is. Did you see it?
Oh yeah, I saw it. Yeah, I actually.
Okay, decent. It looks like it's not rusted up or anything.
No, it looks like it's in pretty good shape.
Okay, well,
it's a little tight when you pull it back to.
It's crisp, so
back. It's pretty tight. So, and it doesn't look too bad. I mean, it looks like it's in pretty decent shape. So, anyway, that's what. Oh,
does it come with a box?
I'm not a gun person. Yes.
Well, question: do you have a box with it? Okay, that's somebody's probably dresser drawer security gun. There's a lot of those out there. There's nothing wrong with them. They have no mileage on them. In many cases, they have no rounds through them, or very few, to the point where you're virtually buying a brand new old gun, is what it comes down to. Now, here's the thing. Just because it carries, you see, that's why I need the model. Because remember, there was a bunch of guns that were large capacity. There is the model, the little 32 ACP model Beretta that's out there right now is a staggered magazine, large capacity. But they made a 10-shot version for the first of the states that were idiots about, restricting the mags. So that gun may take the other mags that are standard. The thing is, I'd have to look to see if we can find the 380 model mags for, I think it is the Model 81 or whatever it is. I have to look to see which model. But first we need to know what model you're looking at. So you'll find out next Saturday, and then you can give us a heads up. Here's the policy. Unless it's really mucked up, I do a counter of, say, 310, 320, and see what they say. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If he's still got it if he's still got it next week at haggle, you want to go lower than 300, go lower than 300.
Okay.
The only reason is because, again, if he's not on, there's no ammunition laying around right away, and people are going to be selling stuff like that under the logic that they don't really want to make the effort to look for, or they don't even care, or they don't know. And if that's the case, that's not a problem.
380 around. There's lots of 380 around.
They're still, but don't worry. Now here's what's funny: is don't worry. But 9mm owners are in the same boat, so are 40 caliber owners. They're almost everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's hunting for ammo now. So, but I would start looking now if you're really thinking about next Saturday doing that. I would start hunting, and if you're serious, at least buy 4, 5, 6 boxes of ball ammunition. And like I said, it's got to be 380 auto, not 9mm Makarov, not 9mm Parabellum. It's got to be 380 auto. Okay. And when you do that, again, I would go cheapest. Don't worry about it. Just ball ammo. Blazer is acceptable. Blazer is good ammo. If you find, somebody goes, the Blazer is cheap. Yeah, it's cheap. That's what you want right now, cheap. So, thanks. In fact, I'm looking for it because Tommy needs some too. There's a lot of the people who want 380 auto. So, you're on it. But if you're serious about it, like I said, we'll work on that one. Anyway, we're going to close with me for the time being, Phyllis. God bless our republic.
Death to the New World Order.
We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The Empire is on the run.
And we are on the march day and night, and I did hear from Daryl, and he seems to be doing okay. So,
don't forget to hold that 380 Beretta close and I burned my cheek, but that's okay. Okay, we're going to be back in a few minutes. We're going to take a break. Thank you, Phyllis. Actually, I'll see what I can do, but find out more about the model number, too. It works out. We are at the top. Next hour coming up. It is Monday on Libertytreeradio.
We'll pay the piper, boys. We need to live
Liberty's Guardian, Guns and Ammunition, a family-owned business located in the heart of Ohio's hunting country. Let us help you find the right shotgun or rifle for you. Or if you're looking for a pistol or concealed carry, we have a nice selection of compact and subcompact pistols for that too. Check out our website at www.libertiesguardian.com. That website again is www.libertiesguardian.com. Go to the website and check out our selection today.
Join Mark and Don for Weapons Wednesday, where you'll learn how to use everything from your bare hands to your average AR-15.
The 12-gauge autoloader.
Sure.
The 45 long slide.
Yep.
With laser sighting.
You betcha.
The Uzi 9mm.
Yes, sir.
Phased plasma rifle in the 40-watt range.
What are you, crazy?
Wrong.
Okay. They'll talk about that too. So whatever question you have about whatever weapon you have, call Mark and Don on Weapons Wednesday. And remember, your mind is your first best weapon.
We all need to prepare ourselves. You might have the food, water, gold, and silver, but ask yourself, are you truly prepared? That's why you need to visit MaineMilitary.com. MaineMilitary.com carries everything you need. Gas masks, fire starter kits, high-capacity magazines, chemical suits, military surplus items, and much more. Do you own a firearm? MaineMilitary.com has a large selection of pistols and rifles suited for your needs. Are your local stores sold out of ammunition? Call or visit them today for prices on hard-to-find ammo and bulk ammo orders. You don't need to worry about having a military surplus store in your area because MaineMilitary.com is the only store you'll ever need, all from the comfort of your computer. Visit them online today at MaineMilitary.com. That's Maine, like the state, military.com.
I had a dream the other night that, well, I didn't understand. A figure walked in through the mist with a flintlock in his hand. His clothes were torn and dirty as he stood there by my bed. He took off his three-cornered hat, and speaking low to me, he said, "We fought a revolution to secure our liberty. We wrote the Constitution as a shield from tyranny. For future generations, this legacy we gave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. The freedoms we secured for you, we hoped you to always keep. But tyrants labored endlessly while your parents were asleep. Your freedom's gone, your courage lost. You're no more than a slave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. You buy permits to travel and permits to own a gun, permits to start a business or to build a place for one. On land that you believe you own, you pay a yearly rent, although you have no voice in saying how the money's spent. Your children must attend a school that doesn't educate, and your Christian values can't be taught according to the state. You read about the current news in a regulated press, and you pay a tax you do not owe to please the IRS. Your money is no longer made of silver nor of gold. You trade your wealth for paper, so your life can be controlled. You pay for crimes that make our nation turn from God and shame. You've taken Satan's number. You've traded in your name. You've given government control to those who do you harm, so they could burn down churches and seize the family farm, and keep our country deep in debt, put men of God in jail, harass your fellow countrymen while corrupted courts prevail. Your public servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn. And your daughters visit doctors, so their children won't be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores, and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or Don't you have the courage and the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you'll fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear and be a slave? Oh, sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand. Defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great republic and each God-given right. And pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside to dream while you were asleep, and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave? God bless you, and God bless this republic.
And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second hour of the afternoon intelligence report. I'm Mark Corky. One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters on and behind the lines in occupied territories, Southwest, North, Northeast, and East. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you were listening to us on Libertytreeradio.4mg.com, Liberty Tree Radio on YouTube, AM and FM micro stations, AM and FM conventional stations, and AM and FM ultra stations, new network. We are doing something a little different. Somebody's experimenting with a side band FM system. I am not familiar with it. I understand it was discussed, back in 1994. There was a promotion to try and do this. Apparently it's being worked again, so I'm going to get some update on it when it's tested out here. And probably somebody resurrected the 94-95 project that Mr. Anderson came up with. Unfortunately, Mr. Anderson passed away. He was quite a few decades ahead of everybody else. He was in his late 80s when he was helping everybody to work with communications. And some of his students tried to carry on the project. Maybe they've continued, but it's not that it couldn't be done, but it does require special receivers. You know, you can transmit, but you got to have something to send to. So apparently we're testing on a system right now, and they're doing that because that way they're replaying us. So I want to say thank you to the guys there. We're also on Ultranet, Hallmark, and Golden Spike Technologies, east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. Today's date, well, it is the 10th of August. It is Monday. It is 6:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and of course it is the 12th year of Open Fabian Socialist and Soviet Socialist Occupation of America with a K, 2020 Old Earth Calendar, 2020 Year of the Dance of Swords. Let it begin, and since it's going to, pour gasoline on that fire. Be ready with buckets of it when the time comes. We can't slow it down, and we do not want to stop, and we are not going to back out of it. We need to move into it, and we need to move into it in a very intelligent way with a plan, which we have. Everybody has their plan. We have ours, too. So let's see what the bad guys are up to. Anyway, we have a caller. Who do we have?
Yeah, this is Rick out of Oregon. Gasoline is actually what I was going to bring up. By the way, it may have been on my end, but I've been busy about here and there trying to call in, and it wasn't letting me unmute. I just let you know, like I said, it might be my end. Anyway, the gasoline thing, that's actually what I was calling about. I've been finding tons of gas cans from driving down the freeway, and they leave them on the center divider, and there's literally a 3/4 of a gallon left in there. The ones for the 4-wheel drives, where they have the little modular, rectangles. I've picked up a couple of those.
Piggyback tanks. Yeah.
Yeah, just full of gas. I gave them to my son. I said, figure out a better way to secure them than gases did. I picked up a jerry can yesterday on the side of the road. I couldn't even tell where it hit the freeway. There's just people right now. Well, they're everywhere right now. I've picked up a 5-gallon thing of diesel with 2.5 gallons of diesel in it. You know what? If you don't trust the diesel or the gasoline, there's lots of other uses. And quite frankly, you could run a lawnmower or a generator with it. They're not that picky if you're afraid to put it in your vehicle. The second thing that I've picked up for free for the past month or so are kitchen knives and sharpeners, and putting together kits for field kitchens, where we have 2 of them together, and that's all we need, or at least for us. But a lot of times Sundays everything's free. Yesterday I picked up a Pampered Chef knife sharpener. And, for my knives that I use all the time, I sharpen in a different way. But when you're in a kitchen, you can just run it, zip, 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 and you're back in business. And they're handy. They take up very little space. And quite frankly, I've got another just kitchen knife sharpener because I use knives all the time with my job. But anyway, those kitchen knives, if you want to make something nasty, you sharpen it with the edge of your chop saw, and the serrations on that, it'll cut through and rip through just about anything. I really wouldn't want to get that anywhere near my skin on the blade side. If you need an emergency kind of slashing weapon, it is perfect. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of share that.
Well, one of the things you just pointed out this weekend, by paying attention to the yard sales, at the end of the yard sales, guys, if you go through an area, go to Facebook Marketplace. That's the big place right now where everybody posts, hey, out by the curb, and watch for freebies, like you said, on Sunday, and watch the road. It's weird. You're talking about gas cans, because I have about 7 or 8 same way that I picked up where they've been just laying around. And guys, you can buy brand new caps. You can buy, in fact, you can even buy add-on vacuum breaker caps now. They've been doing that for quite some time. You can't buy the can with them on, but if you go to your hardware, different hardwares, and they will be China Sport junk, I will tell you that, but they come with a kit that has a where you drill a plug hole, do a little plug hole, push this thing through, and you've got the classic vacuum breaker where you pull the cap open when you want to pour, and lo and behold, guess what? The stuff pours correctly. You're not standing there waiting for bloop, bloop, bloop.
Well, to be honest with
gasoline water torture.
The other thing that I've done the past couple weeks, since I'm gas can king of my neighborhood, is I've actually stopped and grabbed. You're always seeing them where they're smashed on the side of the road. I've stopped and got the old style snorkels as well, because some of the new ones, you got to push them in. Pieces of equipment that just doesn't work on. They just don't work. So I grabbed the old ones off the smashed ones, that are just I want to say corrugated, but they will bend. And I've started just zip tying them to the handle. So, you just never know what situation you're going to be in. And like I have an outboard motor that you can't use anything but the articulated That's what the word I'm looking for, to get it in without you worrying about half of it. Oh, the other thing I wanted to throw in is I've found in the local store, and it can't be the only store that has it, I've found vacuum sealed rice where it's got to be maybe 14 inches across and maybe 20 inches down and maybe 4 inches thick, and it's vacuum sealed, so it keeps the rice from going stale. And I mean, it is a brick when you pick this puppy up. There's a lot of rice in this, and
actually, that's a good arrangement. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can do it at home, but if you can buy it already done, and yeah, when you pick it up, it's got to be 4 or 5 pounds. I mean, but it's got to be more than that. But it's all sealed nice and tight. I can store it in an area in another bag where I don't have, or I can keep it cool, but I don't have to worry about it getting damp as well. Anyway,
well, it'd be a good one for you take one of those lifeboat ration slugs. Those are great. They're already vacuum packed the same way. You take one of those or 2 of those packs of rice. If you can find a bean counterpart or you make your own, that would work. But where they're anything like that where they're already set up for deep time storage, you put them inside an armored container, a 5-gallon pail. Like I said, I've been ending up with a plethora of these kitty litter buckets. And my medical units, all my medical equipment has gone either into a standard single tote, actual military transport cans, or kitty litter buckets. And one of the things that I've been doing is actually designated food ration bundles that go with the medical detachment now. And that sounds like that would be perfect because it'll stand upright. You're not going to beat them up and bounce them around. While they're in storage, guys, they're just going to sit there. So there's not going to be any agitation to compromise the package. But that would be very good for exceptionally long storage. And that's what you should be looking at right now. Go ahead.
The only fear I have with them is rodent. And like you said, in another container, although I've been in situations where they've tried to chew through the can, of dehydrated food.
Rodentia, you mean rodent? Yeah.
Yeah. I've lived in some areas where the rats are. Yeah. I've seen them.
Highly motivated.
One get smacked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've seen one get smacked with a 1.5 inch piece of conduit, and it didn't even stun him. Anyway, but yeah, I just wanted to, you still have to protect it from rodents, but I was thinking you could put them in and stack them up. And yeah, like you said, it's easier to store. And
it's going to be much more durable because one of the big advantages, like you said, they pull the vacuum on it. You're not going to have any decomposition. Basically, how it went into the package is how it's going to come out when you open it up. And you're looking at you're looking at decades of storage on something like that. I really like the different. Some are espresso, but they're the vacuum packed bricks of coffee, and it's easy to identify if they've been compromised. Now, if you don't carry them around and beat them up, which we do when they're in our backpacks, then you know that when they're compromised because the vacuum breaks. You have a little feel like usually it's along the top seal. Now it's not so bad that it's leaking, but it finally gives up the ghost. In a static storage location, though, that's not going to be a problem. And that's why that's a really good solution. Now, here's the question. Is it in clear or are they in like a retort foil pouch?
They're in a foil. They're in foil. They're not clear.
See, that's fantastic. They're looking at, and again, now it's not, it's dry rice, not cooked rice. It wouldn't make any difference either way.
Well, yeah, but you're going to get a lot more when it's uncooked. I mean,
right?
It's $14, which isn't cheap, but for the hassle you'd have to go through to do this to that much rice, I'm looking at it that they weighed somewhat close to the medium-sized bags of the loose rice. That I don't know what size. I'm heading in to go buy some.
I can picture by dimension what you gave me. So the big thing here, again, like you said, is you're paying for a storage method that is actually quite sound. And in fact, I could recommend it with anything we can find like that, where it's retort pouch, or if it's there's a lot of them that are in the clear, heavy bag too. Different products right now, but they are compressed vacuum sealed, and they are a good storage method. Now, they'd be great for one way if you were in the field. They're good for so many flexes, no matter what. Always remember that. We've talked about that with the MREs. The same is true with all the rest of these retort pouches or plastic pouches that are the new type that are using the vacuum system or a soft vacuum wet pack system. There's a couple different methods that are out there, but the end result is they're very durable when it comes to carrying them. But for once you got them on the shelf, if you're not moving around, the earth doesn't jiggle, and ain't going to jiggle enough to worry about it. Those packages would be good literally for decades, untouched, unscathed. If they were buried, put in a cache. And, here's the thing, metal tin them, or for that matter, ammo can them. The chubby, stubby 50 caliber, the oversized, they're really not 50. They're made for a number of other grenades and 20 millimeter or 30 millimeter cans. Yeah. The other one that works really well is the grenade can. The ones that are out there, they're a little deeper, and then the 20 millimeter can would be great for that. And it's a block of food. I know it's an ammo can, but that's about as good a protection as you're going to get for, containment. Go ahead.
Well, we were going to make. Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody else is out there. I'll make it real quick.
Butt in. Coincidentally, ran across today while doing some moving of supplies. Some of the 2-liter bottles that we did with BK's oxygen absorbers back in 2011. I found 6 bottles of rice. Again, they're in 2-liter jugs. Still sucked down tight. I didn't open any of them because I could tell they were sucked down tight. Then we had mice around the area. Mice never got into them. So literally a 2-liter pop bottle and about half a cent worth of iron and a piece of paper towel. And these things have been going 9 years now, and they're still. Oh wow! Like I said, they're still sucked up tight.
Yeah, and again, the price is right. So go ahead, Colin.
Oh, I was going to say, with my experience, I do sheet metal, so we were going to make just some sheet metal boxes with plastic.
Yeah, if you can tin knock, yeah, you make the box of your choice. You make the one that'll fit your needs. And again, Rodentia is not going to get through, the Planum steel that you could use. I mean, unless you've got highly motivated, Metalla rodents.
Well, I've seen them literally chew on the edge of stainless, believe it or not. And I'm not saying they had any teeth left, but they get hungry enough. One last thing, and then I got to get going here. I've been finding in the hardware stores again, the denatured alcohol seems to be back in. You can't find regular rubbing alcohol. I want the denatured anyway. If you have an emergency situation, you need to heat with it. You got to make sure that it says denatured alcohol and fuel, or because there are certain denatured alcohol where they actually do put acetone in it instead of the other stuff, and you really don't want to burn that. But you can find the stuff now. Again, it's like $10 a gallon. But if you're in an emergency situation and you can't have smoke and you've got to stay warm, and where I end up a lot of times is Sub-Zero, and it's the backup to the backup. So anyway, I just had to throw that out.
I appreciate that. Again, that's Harbor Freight. You're seeing it on your area. We haven't got it here yet, but that doesn't mean it isn't. One thing that I did talk to the girls at a couple different points, I got them to break down, and it's like they said, they're getting whatever Harbor Freight sends because they're like Dollar Tree. They don't get to scan and request. They have to wait for whatever inventory shows up. So you guys are lucky. We may not. We might.
I misspoke. It's actually not Harbor Freight. I've been finding it in the hardware stores. I haven't seen it
Regular
for work.
hardware stores. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'm not talking. I haven't seen it in a Home Depot. I've got to go in because my company card. I go in Depot, a couple times a week. They don't seem to have it, but I like the Ace or the True Value, or there's usually a local hardware store that's still hanging on by a thread.
Right. We have
that's
those.
where
Ace and True Value, both of them you're mentioning. Yeah.
So anyway, I got to go.
I'm gonna.
I will catch up with you guys later.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And again, one of the advantages of the high compression freeze-dried and high compression conventional dried foods, guys, is shelf life and stability. But as I've pointed out many times, certain types of packaging, the Army already did the tests on this. Government does tests and all this. They've tested and retested. Hell, if you were to dig long enough, they've spent trillions of dollars just on the research in packaging over a century. In fact, it goes back farther than that. Every war we've had, before we've had a war and after we've had a war and while we have a war, we typically test all these new and innovative ideas. Instant coffee showed up during the Civil War, the first instant coffee. Okay, think about that. If you thought it was World War II, because Sanka had lots of good advertising. Well, they actually had an instant coffee in World War I, and they had a really tacky, pardon the pun, but that literally it was, tacky instant coffee in the Spanish-American War and in the Civil War. The same is true with packaging systems. And, of course, it's been acknowledged that canned good, the idea of just canning food, completely changed the dynamic of mobility and volume in terms of how many people you could move based on how much in the way of calories you have that you can move with them, with the people you want to move, or the people that are going to operate in an area. So the next step, of course, in soft packaging, the Mylar bag is relatively new, but actually a similar system using was almost like a burlap combined with conventional foil was developed in World War I and was actually used. And you'll find everything from perishable, equipment or components to food items that had been stored in these retort type pre-Mylar retort type pouches. There's a variation on this also that exists in World War II. Again, they did not want to stake their claim to that as the first best choice, mostly because, again, of durability and survivability issues under inclement weather, in extreme conditions. And the extreme conditions are extreme cold and extreme hot. And they have tested all of that. There's been a systematic mechanism in place with procurement and supply to test the performance of everything. We have the extreme cold weather is Alaska. It used to be the Tropical Environment Condition Testing Center. One of them was in Panama. And, of course, there are a couple other general test sites like Hunter Liggett. Some of you guys are familiar with that site. One of the most heavily mapped out sites at one time in America before we had the Spy in the Sky satellite system, before we had the mapping system we have now. Hunter Liggett was literally mapped out by the square inch. You could do, whenever they did research on everything from electronics to artillery to food packages to whatever, when they were doing certain research, they could calculate, and literally map something out inch by inch if they needed to, foot by foot. And it's fascinating, again, the extremes that they went through. So the database is massive, and it's already been built, and everything else is usually superfluous to, and in fact, just a way for them to spend more money. All these systems have been tested. Canned goods in every variation and ways, ceramicized canned goods used to be the norm, actually, for some types of items. And what that means is that everybody's worried about the plastic lining that we have on the inside of cans. Well, a ceramicized, malleable stock was actually developed and utilized for military long-term storage, and it was actually incorporated over into civil defense. It was all done in the 50s to the 60s, mostly into the middle 60s. And like everything else, there's this magic, oh, wow, who was there? McNamara, that jackass. this magic number around 64, 65, when they pulled the plug on and destroyed anything and everything that had to do with keeping you and us alive and pushing towards, expending the population or leaving them, on their own in the event of a, real threat issue like a nuclear war, a real natural crisis, whatever. And so all these systems that have been perfected with your tax dollars were vaporized in terms of projects for public use. Now, my personal attitude is a lot of these companies stayed in business, and I think that, yes, there's a lot of stuff tucked away for just the ring knockers and the spit swappers underground, exactly as expected. You can't have semi-trucks, truckloads of stuff showing up and not have something in the trucks to go underground at the places we have with what we call the Morlock holes around Michigan, like up in the northeastern corner or right here around Detroit. I mean, the amount of garbage that's underground now, it's just vast. And we know it is because there are people who have been down there at one point or another. We've seen a percentage of it because maintenance, things need to be fixed. Stuff needs to be done. People eventually realize what they're looking at, and the rest is history, as they say. So, but the technologies that are used to make the stuff last that much longer, people, well, they spent that 40 years ago. Yep, and the stuff's still sitting there after 40 years, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's in time storage. It literally, if the clock stopped, it was put into its storage system, and it's just waiting for the clock to start back up again. Open the package, pull everything out, do all your tests, everything works. I used to do that with AMPRC 77s, even at the end of the Vietnam War. The ones that we were packaging, unpackaging, uncanting, decanting, were from 1971, 70, 69. And then we had AMPRC 25, 77s. I bought a ton of ANPRC H9s and 10s, and you guys listening who were the OP4 know full well that we had hundreds of those. And they're all backpack radios. But when we got them, well, they were literally the last people that had seen them were the individuals that boxed them up at Motorola or any one of the other myriad of contractor companies that were doing the equipment. And if you're an RO, in many cases, if you were lucky, you were literally pulling the radio out that was going to be signatured to you by the time you were done, because you're the one who's going to make it work. So we open up the box, every package, all the little connectors, even the instruction manuals are in the same storage system. Everything is built for time. And again, there's still stuff underground like that all over this country and all outside this country too. It's vast, just vast. Now, we know where part of that is, or a percentage, and the rest we'll find later. So it's not all necessarily in the enemy's camp, just because for the moment they think they control it. Everybody needs to remember where all the other bad guys are when the time comes. Another thing real quick, I want to say thank you to Robert and also to Ethel for searching for 380 auto ammo and not being fortunate enough to find anything yet, but there is some out there because, yeah, there's a few local businesses. You're going to have to actually look locally to see what's on the shelf, but out at the job end where the big companies are, the vacuum sweepers have struck in everything in the last couple of days. Again, this has been like a pulse force multiplication thing. I just had somebody go, Mark, I can't find anything. It's like not just 380 auto, but anything. I know some of the companies. There's a term you're going to see nonstop from page after page. I wish they would put a flag on the product like some of the other companies do. Out of stock. Out of stock. There's two things you can do. You can have a subroutine that takes the inventory, takes it out of the inventory, or you can flag it when you have a general inventory list, and that way you don't waste time going to, and then finding out once you get there, they're out. I'm all ready to order because, look, they show me there's a picture, and there's a price, and here's the manufacturer, and it says go to, and then you go to, and it's not there. Well, that was a waste of my time. You do that once, it's kind of like that thing about the AR-15 M16 pickle fork flash hider. When you hang up on a branch the first time, it's only one. When you do that 100 times later, it's rather obnoxious. It gets really obnoxious after about 1,000 times in the next mile and a half through, dense foliage. So the same is true when it comes to searching for stuff like this. It really kind of pisses people off when You could have been doing something else, like, something productive. And it's something that some people need to address sooner rather than later, because people are getting more and more frustrated and the customer won't come back. Yeah, not for a long time anyway. And finally, when somebody hears about some rumor that something might be there, maybe they'll show up then. So anyway, again, thank you guys. Appreciate it. We'll keep looking. I'm doing the same thing while we're doing the program. We just did a quick search and still come up with nothing. Outdoor Limited might have a little bit on the shelf, but you guys need to track that down yourself and wherever the stores are, and look to see what they specifically have in hand at the store. Physically, go check it out. Otherwise, I'm not counting too much on the industry and the mechanism to do what it's supposed to do there. Well, it doesn't have it to do it with. Another thing is, and this has to do with medical. I mentioned I grabbed that with that wheelchair this weekend. We had these discussions with a lot of our people. In fact, somebody was commenting on it. It's like, the reason they don't want to pick up a wheelchair is because they're not going to get shot. Well, we're on the realistic end of the business where it's more likely you're going to be expected to be shot, hit, or let's put it this way. You're jumping out of the back of that deuce and a half, my favorite, and your leg gets hooked on the sidebar of the troop seat because it's, on an angle, and you were turning around, and you kind of got pushed sideways, and your toe fish hooked into that, and you go face first, and either you hit the ground and hopefully your toe releases, or you're kind of hanging there, and part of your face, and at least your lower chin, smacks into the bottom of that back hanger gate, usually where that foot cleft is, because you're kind of lined up with it, and you got a nice divot there. You're bleeding real good. Hopefully you didn't chip a tooth or lose a tooth, maybe even break a jaw. And it's just so embarrassing when you get hurt like that. But then on the other end, the ankle got twisted real good. So you can walk around with maybe, a bunch of stitches in your face and maybe having to wire the jaw, but you're not walking around so much with that busted up angle that twisted 45 degrees from where it should have been. So, things like crutches, walkers, and especially wheelchairs are especially handy when you get them for free and you can have them set up in the inventory. You just have to allocate a certain amount of space for medical support. When the time comes, we can bring this all together. But one wheelchair goes, a mile, more than a few miles, towards positive, casualty reduction. And no, we don't need you biting the bullet and gimping around. I'm going to point out something about that. I'm tough. I can handle it. Shut up. I need you. I could do the same. Trust me, I've done the same thing. We all have. But here's the thing. You're going to have to bite the bullet yourself and focus on healing. And so there's where the tough part is. You're going to have to be helping in whatever other way you can. We're not going to take your weapons away from you. So congratulations. You got a boo-boo. You're going to be stuck in convalescence because we need you back up as close to 100% as possible, as quickly as we can. And that means proper casualty handling. So for all of you out there that are listening, all these little tools in the toolbox, the more of them that we have, the better off we are. Even a stupid little walker. Oh, it's Grandpa's walker. Yeah, well, it'll be your walker for a bit. So maybe we don't have enough of those wheelchairs to go around, but that walker is going to take a whole lot of weight off and help to build up your upper body strength and maintain it. Because otherwise, you're going to start entropying. Or you're going to work into entropy. In other words, your muscles are going to start working the other direction, not working at all. You're going to slack off. We can't afford that. So guess what? We don't have a problem with you working that upper body to keep the pressure off those feet. That's a good idea. See how that works? Oh no, I'll let you gimp around, but only under certain conditions and with the right tools. And again, you should still be settling down, because in order for those splits, cracks, fractures, and breaks to re-heal properly, we need to have you settle in for a little bit. And I know that's tough for a lot of people. It's hard for most everybody if they're get up and goer like we have in the Patriot movement to begin with. But again, proper planning prevents poor performance. The longer you make something tweak and bend where it shouldn't, when it's got a crack, fracture, or snap, just a little bit of a break, enough damage that it hurts constantly. Well, we need to immobilize that. We need to figure out how to make it, or what it is that'll put no resistance on the injured area, and it'll keep you going. And we want to heal you up so you can keep up with everybody else while we're chasing down Ching Lee and the rest of the secret police who think they're going to confiscate guns, force us to get some kind of inoculation, or just plain puff up in our face and try to wag their weenie here, where they shouldn't. We're going to need you. So think ahead. Start planning ahead. We need the medical support technology in play. We need everybody to help to make it happen. Many hands make for light work, and it's a very simple process, okay? I want to touch on that again in this hour. Wheelchairs, hell, even bathroom shower seats. The aluminum ones, they fold up and everything, but so they're smaller for sitting up in a bathtub or sitting up in a shower where you can't necessarily stand. Yes, those are all things that should be disassembled, bagged or boxed, tagged and bagged for identification, or ideally so if you're clear on top of everything else so you can see it, make sure there's a tag inside the bag, not just outside the bag. That way if something happens with the outside label, the one that's in there with the device is still there and you can figure out what it is. It'll tell you without opening it up and trying to figure out what's going on. That's another thing. Like everything else, packaging. You got to be creative with the packaging. Watch for large Ziploc bags, industrial bags. Go see if you got a manufacturing site nearby. Some of these places are chucking out God knows how many tons of plastic, industrial, heavy gauge Ziploc bags. They had something else in them. Find out what they had. If it's metal, use them for your metal parts. If it was for plastics or whatever, it can be used for any number of different things. If it's food grade, better still, or something that was rated for food grade or medical grade. Remember, there's a lot of different places out there that are still trying to chug along and build something. When their components come together, they're shipped to them in a certain way. All we need to do is find out what they ship them in. Now, the selling feature, whenever you're trying to get those from somebody, hey, if you let us collect your waste and we carry it away, that means you have that much less going to the trash dump. And if you, depending on how you have your trash hauled or how you have your material hauled, that means that much less you have in the way of expenses that we can cut down the cost, especially with regard to the volume of waste that you produce. So just a heads up, be creative, and also think, be ahead of when you go and have a conversation with somebody on something like that, always be ahead of the game. It's not hard to do. You have to think ahead and figure out, arguments that will make sense to a person who is in business. Okay? Sometimes that's handy. Another thing real quick, and again, over the weekend, there's been some discussion about it being an ordnance device dropped from above. There's some imagery that has been generated about the whole thing with Beirut. Like I said, just as likely as not going to argue with it, not going to argue against it, because it's a scurrilous situation halfway across the planet, and government lies about everything. Our government lies, the other side lies, whoever out there, whatever side's out there is lying. And basically the people are on the receiving end, and the only ones who are not for sure what's going on, but got a pretty good feel. We don't know what they're saying amongst themselves, and we're not going to get a credible answer because the Jewish mob runs the communication system, and they're going to edit out anything and everything that isn't in line with their agenda. The third team that's against all of you, Goy, of course, has you in the crosshairs, and they're trying to stir the pot to get you to go out and fight for them as meat puppets, as organic sandbags in front of whatever scurrilous deeds and trash the Israelis do. So understand, getting played, boys, getting played. Well, ain't our circus. Those aren't our monkeys. But if you watch and look to see what happened in Beirut, that's what I've been talking about. You see what I was saying right there? That's what Charleston will look like, or Savannah, or Jacksonville, if the Israelis decide to nuke America. You see what you saw there? Now just picture that over Charleston, or just picture that over Savannah with the Israelis doing the exact same thing there. Now you got an image you can work with. I've tried to explain this over and over. Now you got a real image. That was real footage you saw, as far as we know. So if you wonder what Jacksonville's going to look like, or Savannah with the imagery that people are going to be able to preserve, well, to a degree, that's it. So, go ahead, caller, jump in there.
Yeah, this is Cliffy.
I figure the bombs are probably already situated in some of our cities, maybe all the major ones. And
right. In fact, yeah. Well, again, yeah. Open door policy. The Oi boys have got manipulative control of how many different elements of our government. And container transports are still the cheapest, easiest way. And if you don't have to worry about size, then container size would be just fine for them. Shipping container standard, big box shipping containers. Why not? So just a heads up on that one. Absolutely. And again, between the Chinese open door policy and the way that this government will let the Chinese survey their own cans coming in. So we don't know what they shipped in. We really don't. Our government intentionally screwed us on that across the board. Now that's because who the Chinese work with, the Israeli communists are tied at the hip with the Chinese communists. Always have been, always will be. And they just want to try and make America just like communist China, which is, again, that's one of those teams out there working against you. All the stuff that they've already set up, well, whichever party wants to use it, I'm sure there's a cooperative agreement for when the time comes. It just should be expected. It's the norm, not the exception. Otherwise, again, it is on the other side of the planet, but pay attention to what we've been seeing in terms of activity now and the shift with reporting of the communists in the streets. Now, remember what I said, they're trying desperately to push everybody back into the police state. So you've got the big thing about, support the cops. First of all, let's see, the communists on the street want you to get rid of the cops, which of course then gets everybody to chant, we want more cops, we need the cops, the cops are so wonderful. Now, they really have been beating on people and killing people and murdering a lot of people, which we've done a pretty good job of covering, when the controlled media absolutely will not. That couple in Texas is probably the best example. Didn't get any national coverage except for the propaganda and lies they started out with, just like when they attacked the people at Waco. The only difference is somebody stuck to their guns and actually pulled the truth out with the police state kicking and screaming every step of the way until the truth, finally came out that they murdered that couple. But how long did it take and what did it take to get the job done? And they weren't in any shape or form going to acknowledge the dirty deed that they did. It just wasn't going to happen. And the whole department in Houston lied. Every last stinking one of them joined in that lie against that couple. So that's visions of things to come. That's why I don't rah-rah any of these groups, because I know better. Wearing black, they don't love you. They, in fact, hate you. They despise you. The cops despise you and look at you as nothing but revenue and a tax operation. And they're the only reason they're holding back is because of what's funny is there is kind of a schizophrenic situation going on here, because the commies called for defunding the local cops. They didn't say getting rid of all the cops. In fact, what they'll do is shift all these local cops to the national police force. That's really what the agenda is all about. But that's why they didn't have any problem, because they know where this is going. Now, but then all of a sudden, when they really did start, acting on some of the what were strange for both the pro-police state leftists that are the rank and file down below, and for the police state / New World Order clique from above, that the New World Order clique actually was going along with it, everybody scratching their arse in the rank and file of the cop shops, to the point where they went into brain fart, in many cases simply backed off and said they weren't going to do the job anymore. Well, we're just going to leave. Now, mind you, had they said, well, we're going to let you do whatever you want, they'd have followed any order the communists gave them. You do understand that, right? As long as they were given carte blanche to be able to beat your ass down, they have no problem. They don't care. Antifa, they're just a sidebar. In fact, they're more, business partner than anything. But the moment that they started that, well, we're not going to support you to, blah, 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 defend yourself when you are attacked. Well, then the minions, at least the professional minions, all of a sudden aren't really motivated to get out there and do their job.
or do any job, and certainly not risk their lives when the people who are telling them to stand down understand full well the risk, what that creates in the way of a condition with the supposed enemy on the other side wearing black, Antifa / kill all the white people / take your pick of whichever group it is. So the quandary that they've created, or the situation, is that they just went kind of neutral. Now, that really is not good for the New World Order plug-in click thing either, and so now they've had to juggle and jiggle the operation around, and they're now back to the support the cops. Get behind the police state. We need a bigger police state. No, we don't. We don't need Antifa, but if the cops that we do have had done their job, the communists that are on the street wouldn't be a problem. It wouldn't be burning down the country. See how this is a spiraling back, like a fake kangaroo boxing match, a patty cake back and forth, and in the long run, where we actually end up. So anyway, we are almost to the top. A couple last things, and again, this has to do with equipment, material, and also basic maintenance. You see how warm it is outside? It's not so much warm as it's wet, okay? It's muggy. A couple of real quick tricks here. Number one, as we've mentioned many times, prehydrate. Prehydrate. Drink water before you get out there. Drink lots of water. Grab another cup before you go. Force it down. Take what you can. Keep it in the system. Don't worry. If you are drinking too much, you will pee it out. Congratulations. You're going to be watering the lawn there somewhere, or the back 40, or the pine tree, or whatever. I don't think you're going to have to worry too much, because with the temperatures the way they are, you'd be surprised how much less you're going to pee. But carry water wherever you can. Carry water all the time. One of the things I got today, like I said, was three 3-gallon water containers that are specifically purpose-built, and another one that was a 5-gallon water container, like a jerry can, but a little commercial version. There's nothing wrong with any of them. They look virtually new, but it's the idea that that's more water storage each vehicle. Now, each vehicle should have something like that on board. If not, if you're poor, then 2-liter pop bottles, 3-liter pop bottles, take your pick. Tap water. Why? Well, of course, it does have fluoride in it, so that's not helping you much. But the one thing about tap water, it is designed for long-term storage sitting in your city pipes. It's already set up as storage. If you have city water that you use, you're not really that bad off. In fact, you're ahead of the game in terms of storage potential without any other accommodation. You don't have to do anything else to it. Now, otherwise, if you're using well water out where you're with the heathen, you can use iodine. You can use a small amount of chlorine, bleach. There's a couple different options there. In fact, there are some water purification tabs, or there's water purification drops. Follow the instructions per gallon. And again, minimize. I wouldn't even go to spec. I'd drop below spec, because unless there's something really weird going on with your well, your water is going to be pretty stable. In fact, we've done an experiment with that already, and without using any processing system of any kind, where it's good indefinitely on the shelf. After all, it's H2O, and as long as you don't have any mold growing in the pipes, I don't see that happening. Water stability is going to be pretty reasonable, but just in case, because of your containers, you may not have them, you may not be able to control how clean they are, you may have missed something, then you might add a little bit of disinfectant, so to speak. In other words, no, don't use detergent, and don't use, there are other things that are called disinfectant, but we're not going to use those, okay? But there are standard water purification techniques that work just fine and will get the job done and allow for putting volume on the shelf. Another thing that's always the cheater trick, if nothing else, hey, every time you go traveling, grab yourself one of those Dollar Tree, dollar store, cheapest bundles of water bottles. Now, I will point out they don't travel well in terms of if they get kicked, bounced, boobied around or whatever, but they are as ultimately light as you can get. They are one-way, they can be reusable, but they're pretty much supposed to be a one-way container. However, everything and anything in a storm. So step one, you got water storage. Somebody already figured out how to make it happen, and it's supposed to be guaranteed not to turn green in the container. Step two, you got a container to put more water in. So that's not a bad deal. Another thing is, again, if you're going to be putting water in each one of the vehicles, if you have a column of vehicles, try to distribute it uniformly. Try to make sure there's an equal amount. This compensates for battlefield and combat loss situations. Of course, what you're willing to carry, carry. It's that simple. Don't worry about however much you're willing to carry. There's no restriction on maximum, but there is a minimum standard that you should always establish for your unit. With what we saw this last couple of weekends, again, our people are in pretty good shape, but they were being affected by the heat. They will be this weekend if it stays it's supposed to actually stay the way it is right now through to the middle of the month. We're going to get some rain on and off on the peninsula here. We're in Michigan. But again, because of that, it's classic Michigan summer weather. So hydrate, make sure you're carrying water, and also follow up with replacing minerals. Now, whether you decide to
it's storming up here right now.
Well, you've got the weather we're probably going to get next. We were supposed to get rained on, but you're getting rained on right now in northern Michigan.
We're getting a thunderstorm moving in. It knocked the humidity right down.
Even as we speak. By the way, is the porch cleared off?
Sure is. Except for my grills, the applesauce is gone. The only thing left on is my grills.
Excellent. Okay, well, we're at the top. Tom, close with me. God bless our republic. Death to the New World Order. We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The Empire's on the run. We're in the march. We're going to get out of the way. Ed taking over. We'll be back at 8 o'clock for the evening intel report. God bless. Bye-bye.
Liberty's Guardian, Guns and Ammunition, a family-owned business located in the heart of Ohio's hunting country. Let us help you find the right shotgun or rifle for you. Or if you're looking for a pistol or concealed carry, we have a nice selection of compact and subcompact pistols for that too. Check out our website at www.libertiesguardian.com. That website again is www.libertiesguardian.com. Go to the website and check out our selection today.
Join Mark and Don for Weapons Wednesday, where you'll learn how to use everything from your bare hands to your average AR-15.
The 12-gauge autoloader.
Sure.
The 45 long slide.
Yep.
With laser sighting.
You betcha.
The Uzi 9mm.
Yes, sir.
Phased plasma rifle in the 40-watt range.
What are you, crazy?
Wrong.
they'll talk about that too. So whatever question you have about whatever weapon you have, call Mark and Don on Weapons Wednesday. And remember, your mind is your first best weapon.
We all need to prepare ourselves. You might have the food, water, gold, and silver, but ask yourself, are you truly prepared? That's why
This session is no longer being recorded.
MainMilitary.com carries
Goodbye.
everything you need. Gas masks, fire starter kits, high-capacity magazines, chemical suits, military surplus items, and much more. Do you own a firearm? MainMilitary.com